Ama Lira was the name of the boat, and we went for 9 days. It's basically a route from Amsterdam through most of Holland and Netherlands, through Belgium, and then back to Amsterdam. Well, the ocean cruises are very nice too, but I think after you've done a few ocean cruises, you feel that you're, especially in Europe, you're going to a port and then you're being bussed in too far, two hours, sometimes 3 hours to get into a city or to a site, and then spending only an hour or two there and then coming back out. So it's a long haul. The nice thing about a river cruise is that you're stopping along the way, and a lot of times in these smaller towns and in the town itself. And so you can actually walk along and walk in the old cities versus in a port town. A lot of times the port towns aren't the nicest ports to walk along, versus in a river cruise you have all the major tours are included, versus on an ocean cruise usually they're an option. And even if you do the included tours, in the evening you have a chance to go out and walk in the city and participate in some of the festivities and eating in the city if you want to. The rooms are very comfortable. In fact, I thought the room in our Ama Waterways boat was larger than an ocean cruise. So as far as the boat is concerned, and the room itself is beautiful. And of course the maintenance of the room by the staff is just top-notch, just like an ocean cruise. The food is very good quality, and the service is top-notch. In fact, the service there is even nicer because you get to know the waiter even more personally, because there's a smaller amount of people. There's only maybe 120 to 150 people on a boat, so you get the chance to interface with the staff much more than if you're on a bigger boat. On an ocean cruise, you feel compelled to rent a tux or bring a tux with you, or a nice suit. But in a riverboat cruise, it's much more relaxed. There is when the captain's dinner comes out, they're all dressed up very well, but most of the staff realize that most of the people come here to relax. They don't want to bring extra baggage in that. So at most, a person would wear a jacket. A man would wear a jacket. The women are usually like to dress up a little bit more, but not as much as if it was on an ocean cruise. You don't require a tie. And usually just a collared shirt and a pair of slacks are fine enough. Amsterdam's a wonderful city. It has, I guess you would consider it to be the Venice of the North. Many canals. And originally, the Netherlands and Belgium were one country. And then during the wars and that, it split. And one became Catholic, the southern part, Belgium, and the northern part became more Protestant. Yeah, so as far as Amsterdam is concerned, it's a wonderful place to visit. Very many small boutique museums, let alone the Rijksmuseum, which is very world famous for Rembrandt and some of the Van Gogh. And then the Hermitage Museum, which had the Van Gogh also. But not only that, they have, we were intrigued with a very nice restaurant. It was an Indonesian restaurant. And we had what we call the rice table. Because Indonesia had a great trade with the Netherlands, a lot of the Indonesians came to Netherlands and emigrated there. And also that's maybe a little bit of the reason why there's so many different types of beers in Belgium, because they use a lot of the spices from Indonesia and that to taint the beer to make their flavors. And one of the feasts that they have is what they call a rice table. And the rice table is kind of like an assortment of like tapas dishes that are maybe up to 20 of different kinds. And they're all in small dishes, and they're put on a heated plate with candles. And you eat it with rice. It's a very unique experience that I've only had in the Netherlands, which is probably something that you should try if you're going there. And plus, of course, they have all kinds of other different types of foods in that. As far as other places we stopped at Volendam. It's a big city too. And Edam, which is Edam cheese. And what we did there, we had a bike tour, and you could jump on the bikes. There were bikes on board the ship, and you could sign up for the bikes, and they would take you for a tour of a bike tour if you want, or you could do a walking tour of some of these smaller cities. It was wonderful to do that, have that option, because biking is such a big deal in the Netherlands and Belgium. The bikes in Amsterdam are, in fact, that's what they say you have to really watch out for in Amsterdam, is the bikes, because the bikes seem to have more of the right-of-way than the pedestrians. And some of the streetcars and that, they go so close to the bikes and cars, you just wonder how they don't avoid an accident. Arnhem. Arnhem is, of course, it's very famous for the Battle of Arnhem in the Second World War. The movie A Bridge Too Far was a famous movie that kind of highlighted the bridge that was in Arnhem that the British and the Polish soldiers were trying to hold, but the Germans were too strong and overtook them. So, and of course, when you think of Brussels and Antwerp, you think of Belgian beer, and they had 900 different beers. It was like beer heaven if you love beer, and their beer really is superior. It's so smooth, not bitter at all, and you can. I guess the best ones I tried were the ones from the monks, and the Trappist monks made beer in the monasteries, and I think they licensed it to some of the breweries, and they're quite outstanding. And the other thing is Belgian waffles, of course. My favorite, the Belgian waffle, the true Belgian waffle, which is kind of squarish, and they're very light and crispy. And then you can put all fruits or ice cream or whatever on it. It's really, really delicious. You have to try that if you're in Belgium. And the other thing they're very famous for is their mussels, the mussels and French fries. French fries actually didn't come from France. They came from Belgium because I think what I heard is they cut the potato with a French cut. So when the Americans or the British brought it back home, the method of making French fries, they said, oh, you do the French cut, and it got to be French fries. But it's actually Belgian fries. Yeah, that's a kind of bit of nostalgia. But again, they have mussels in many different ways with different sauces. They even have beer with mussels, you know, a beer sauce with mussels, and they're all delicious. A great way to try out their cuisine. We also went to Bruges. Bruges is probably one of my favorite places for the tour because it is a medieval town, and they preserved a lot of the old buildings, and there are many, many sights to see. They have canals running through this city, very much like Amsterdam, and you can take tours through it. So that's a must-see too. I'd love to spend more time in there. In fact, that's one thing about cruising, is that you get to sample all these places, and it just whets your appetite to go back to the highlight ones that you want to re-see. Kinderdijk is very famous for the windmills there, because I think there's 19 windmills there, and they're not all used now, but they have working models of them, because now they've switched to, I think they went to steam power and then they went to electric power, and now it's of course much more efficient with their pumps. But basically windmills were used to be a water pump, and they were used to make the canals at different levels to level the water so that they wouldn't flood the city, because most of the Netherlands, they're called lowlanders because the land is low. Most of the land in the Netherlands is below sea level, and in fact Rotterdam is 20 feet below sea level. So they're very, very good at dike management. So that's the interesting part of the engineering part of the Netherlands too, is watching all these, how they made and conceived the windmills and how they ran it, how they, in the old days, signaled between the windmills what to do to coordinate, you know, who's pumping what. So it's quite intriguing that way. And it also is a beautiful area because it's in a big pastoral area.